There is no planet B. There is no planet blah. Blah, blah, blah. Blah, blah, blah.
Ladies and gentlemen, may I have your attention, please? The show starts in 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go.
All right, hello everyone. Welcome to The Great Reset by Alex Jones. And we're going to read chapter 1, which is basically says it's called What is the Great Reset? So we're going to start there. I am Eagle Jaxson. As you know me, you've known me for so many years. Many people who will see this in the future will say, "Oh my God, I remember Eagle Jaxson from 1978 at the time in downtown Atlanta." Yeah, there was a lot of times down there in downtown Atlanta. It was a good time and all, but I couldn't be around all that thuggery. You know what I mean? So I had to get out, live out in the woods by myself for a little bit. And now I'm here reading books. And I hope you like books, because I'm about to read one. Anyway, what is the Great Reset? That's the question. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put some music on very low in the background. Like out of 3. This is chapter 1. Out of 3, let's check it with... Alright.
There is no planet blah. Blah, blah, blah. Blah, blah, blah.
Let's see, how's this? Can hardly hear it. That's good. Alright. Anyway, there's an external... Oh, here goes the dog. Right when... Whatever. Wow, that music got loud. Okay. I really gotta... We're doing it live! That's Gino over there. If you know Gino, you know what's up. Oh, shut up, Gino. Anyway, there's an external tension in the human soul between the desire for freedom and the desire to be told what to do by those in authority. The human ability to work together in partnership is one of the great strengths of humanity, as the ability to dissent from the accepted wisdom of the day. Many pollsters have noted the trend that no matter what the question, there's roughly a quarter of the population that will have an opposing view. Some have taken to calling it the idiot 25% of the population. And yet I see it as an evolutionary advantage, giving humanity unprecedented flexibility. That actually does make a lot of sense. Anyway, let's imagine we're on. Okay, so he's gonna explain it a little more. Get into this. Let's imagine we're on in a small tribe of about 60 people in the last ice age. Our leader, Thog, tall, handsome, and a great warrior, suggests a certain route to the winter caves. It's the route the tribe has regularly used for the past several years or winters. But another member of the tribe, Uther, why has he got to use names that are fucking annoying to say? There's been a lot of early snow. The glaciers are advancing, and I think that route will likely be blocked. Many might starve if we take that route. I know another route. It's a little longer with some challenging terrain, but we'll definitely make it to the winter caves. So Uther is known as the thinker of the tribe. Maybe he's a medicine man, and sometimes he seems a little crazy, like when he starts talking about the spirits of the ancestors. So many outcomes, of course, are possible. Neither Thog nor Uther knows the actual truth about which route makes the best sense. Thog and Uther might be enemies with long simmering rivalries. Thog might demand that tribe take the traditional route, declaring that any who do not follow his decisions should be banished from the tribe. Uther might respond that Thog makes poor decisions, thus questioning his leadership of the tribe. I see where he's going here. Maybe there are 10 to 15 people who side with Uther, and they take the alternate longer route to the Winter Caves. The group following Thog all die, but the small band led by Uther survives. Maybe the group led by Uther, being much smaller in size, meets with another tribe who wipes them out. The tribe survives, but whether it is Thog's or Uther's group that survives, the community is greatly weakened. There's a big, I don't even know how to say it. There is a great message there, though. There really is. Anyway. However, maybe Thog and Uther are best of friends, respecting the strengths of the other while also understanding the weaknesses. Uther understands that persuading Thog is the best chance to ensure the survival of the greatest number of their people. And Thog understands that some of Uther's crazy ideas have resulted in unprecedented success. Luck by trial, I assume. That's me saying that. They talk and come up with a plan. They'll start the trek to the winter caves on the traditional route, but send their fastest runners ahead to make sure the path is open. If the traditional route is blocked, at the early stages of the journey, it will be easy to take a detour and switch to Uther's plan or route. That is how the strongest tribes are created, by talking through disagreements and coming up with better plans. This is not what we are doing in our world today. Even Gino knows that. That's why he is barking in the background. Damn it. So, Thog and Uther are... What does the Bible say about the proper role between rulers and the people? You might be surprised to learn that one of the earliest books of the Bible, the book of Samuel, takes a very dim view of rulers, especially kings. Isn't that ironic? The book of Samuel takes place after the Jews have fled Egypt, and Egypt will not accept any Palestinians. By the way, no one talks about that. In the Exodus, and reestablished themselves in Israel. At this time, Israel had no king, but instead had judges who would settle issues brought before them. This period was known as the Age of Judges and lasted about a century. Doesn't sound like it's surprised it lasted that long. Now, this is in a different font here. What does this say? In his old age, Samuel appointed his sons judges over Israel. His first... this is from the Bible, that's why. His firstborn was named Joel. His second son, Abijah. Abijah. They judged at Beersheba. His sons did not follow his example, but sought illicit gain and accepted bribes, perverting justice. Sounds like a Biden family thing. Therefore, all the elders of Israel came in a body to Samuel at Ramah and said to him, "Now that you are old and your sons do not follow your example, appoint a king over us, as other nations have, to judge us." Samuel was displeased when they asked for a king to judge them. He prayed to the Lord, however, who said in answer, "Grant the people's every request. It is not you that they reject. They are rejecting me as their king. As they have treated me constantly from the day I brought them from Egypt to this day, deserting me and worshiping strange gods, so do they treat you too. Now grant their request, but at the same time warn them solemnly and inform them of their rights, of the rights of the king who will rule over them." So this is a warning. I like this. Samuel delivered the message of the Lord in full to those who were asking him for a king. He told them, "The rights of the king who will rule you will be as follows. He will take your sons and assign them to his chariots and horses, and they will run before his chariot. He will also appoint from among them his commanders of groups of 1,000 and 100 soldiers. He will set them to do his plowing and harvesting and make his implements of war and the equipment of his chariots." Sounds like a great idea, right? What? Who would want this, you wonder? He will use your daughters as ointment makers, as cooks, and as bakers, of course, and as baby makers. He will take the best of your fields, vineyards, and olive groves and give them to his officials. Sounds like communism. He will tithe your crops and your vineyards and give you the revenue. And give the revenue. No, not give you the revenue. Give the revenue to his eunuchs and his slaves. Eunuchs. Remember. Slaves. Remember. Slavic. He will take your male and female servants, as well as your best oxen and asses, and use them to do his work. Donkeys. He will tithe your flocks, and you yourselves will become his slaves. When this takes place, you will complain again, the king whom you have chosen, but on that day the Lord will not answer you. Wow. So that's very interesting. Let me take a sip of my cafe con leche. Anyway, let's get back to this. So that's from the Bible, I assume. The message there is pretty, pretty obvious. But before we get to that, let's go to my sponsor. Chomping. You're taking chomps out of that shit. Big bites. Big bites. A person might be forgiven if he comes to the conclusion that God was the original insurrectionist. Ooh, look at this. Insurrection. Isn't that happening right now in Los Angeles? They're having an insurrection. So even maybe in New York, you can call that an insurrection too. However, the correct interpretation is that God was suspicious from the beginning that having a king or any ruler was a good idea. His preference was that the people kept him in their hearts and thus would not need any rulers. Except for him, of course. That doesn't say that. I'm saying that. You gotta remember, if anyone doesn't want rulers because they want to be the ruler, that means he's still a ruler. Love you, Jesus. Anyway, when one uses the frame of the Samuel story, it becomes clear why many believe the United States to be a divinely ordained nation. Our founding documents clearly place the people as the true masters of our country if only we act like it. The rulers serve the people, not the other way around. The more power is given to the people, the more God's will is accomplished. People who demand more freedom are working in God's interest because they trust themselves to hear God's voice. The faithful are not, I can't read for shit. The faithful are not fearful of the world around them. If you find a person filled with fear, then God is not with them. That's a good line there. Remember that. The premise of this book is that the battle we are fighting against the Great Reset is nothing more than an ancient battle between the forces of freedom and tyranny. And yet, the critical piece of this fight is not found with those who are publicly advocating for our historic freedoms, or among those advocating for greater governmental control of your life. The battle is won or lost by you, the public, deciding whether you want freedom over your life and decisions or more governmental control. Choose wisely. Ooh, he's getting deep on us. As deep as I don't know, as deep as something. As deep as
Every time I get my hair cut, all I want is a dick in my ass.
yeah, so you know.
There is no planet B. There is no planet blah. Blah, blah, blah. Blah, blah, blah.
Alright, so we're gonna get to the next part of this chapter in 1 second. I'm trying, it's very odd that if you go to, I don't know, you can't set things up on your live stream. I don't know, it's really weird. Anyway, before we get into the Great Reset, we should ask the question, who is the most well-known advocate? That designation most surely belongs to Klaus Schwab. He is we're talking about the advocate of the Great Reset. Founder and executive chairman of the WEF, World Economic Forum. I think he's since moved away from that position, but he's still the same person, whatever. This is how Schwab was described by Mark Benioff, chairman and CEO of the software company Salesforce, in the foreword of Schwab's 2016 book, The Fourth Industrial Revolution, or Reich. This is what this guy said about him. As the founder and executive chairman of the World Economic Forum and its internationally renowned annual meeting in Davos, Switzerland, Klaus Schwab is uniquely placed to synthesize the experiences and views of leading global economic and technological experts, leaders of the world's largest businesses, and the perspectives of government and civil society representatives into a panoramic view of the challenges ahead. That's a helpful piece of information, isn't it? If you think the attendees at the World Economic Forum held every year in Davos, Switzerland have an accurate view of what's happening at the street and neighborhood level of their respective countries, you're likely to be impressed by Schwab's credentials, of course. But if you believe that the wealthiest individuals of every country are somewhat clueless about what's genuinely going on in their countries, perhaps blinded by their expensive cars, enormous mansions, kids with drug problems, and private jets, which spew an enormous amount of carbon into the atmosphere as they globetrot every year to Davos for the WEF, you're likely to be less impressed, and that I fit into that one. Here's how Benioff finishes his introduction to Schwab's book. Okay, so this is how he finishes. So that introduction, remember, I'll start with the last line from what he wrote in the last one. It says, oh, you know what? It's a fucking long. Fuck it. The Fourth Industrial Revolution is an important book for understanding the major trends shaping our world. It provides a way of thinking and analyzing the historic changes taking place so that we can collectively create an empowering, prosperous, human-centered future for all. I am sure that you will gain valuable insights for navigating the future from reading this fascinating book. As Alex Jones as I've Alex Jones reviewed Schwab's book, he reminds me of a stage magician, diverting your attention with one hand so you don't see what he's doing with the other. That's a great metaphor. It's easy to be fooled, as Schwab is comfortable with this kind of gee whiz, ain't it cool, upbeat pop psychology business books that were once so popular. One can view him as a well-trained persuader, that's true, but once you can see the game he's playing, it's difficult to retain any respect for him. Yes, and I've been through that. I've gone through that. The construction of the law, the last paragraph of that dude's introduction is a case in point. He tells you Schwab's book is important for understanding the major trends shaping our world, as well as thinking and analyzing the historic changes taking place. You might find yourself lulled into acceptance, thinking, yeah, I wouldn't mind reading a book about some important trends in our world, but Schwab's not interested in persuading you. He's interested in getting you to accept the plans of the richest and most powerful people in the world to make even more money and to have even more power over your life. That dude who wrote that thing reveals the true intention of the book, when he states that the purpose is to allow us to collectively create an empowering, prosperous, human-centered future for all. Really? Do you think Mark whatever or Klaus Schwab is genuinely interested in your opinions? No, of course not. The truth is they simply want us to be silent as they enact their plans. Here's a reality check, all right? Sounds like reality check is coming. Have any members of the Davos group come up to you in the past few years and said, hey, I really want to understand your life. Can we talk for a couple of hours? I'll give you my email and cell phone number in case you think of something later. Imagine that. I doubt it, it says. And let's just jump into the words of Klaus Schwab with the very first paragraph of the introduction to the book, The Fourth Industrial Revolution. Schwab wrote, let me put this out there. I'll have a better music track for chapter 2. That'll go through and be nice and low. All right, so Klaus Schwab wrote, of the many diverse and fascinating challenges we face today, the most intense and important is how to understand and shape the new technology revolution, which entails nothing less than a transformation of humankind. Humankind, not mankind. We are at the beginning of a new revolution that is fundamentally changing the way we live, work, and relate to one another. In its scale, scope, and complexity, what I consider to be the Fourth Industrial Revolution is unlike anything humankind has experienced before. Now back to Alex Jones. Are you ready for an exciting journey, boys and girls? One almost expects Schwab to tell us how to get in touch with our sixth chakra and access our inner child. However, beneath the breathless, flowery language, he makes it crystal clear that this is about the transformation of humanity. Yes. How does that strike you? Ready for the transformation? You probably didn't realize that was part of the deal, did you? Some don't. The thorn of totalitarianism is hidden among the rose-colored language of Klaus Schwab. Can you find the thorn? Here's another excerpt. We are witnessing profound shifts across all industries, marked by the emergence of new business models, the disruption of incumbents, and the reshaping of production, consumption, transportation, and delivery systems. On the societal front, a paradigm shift is underway in how we work and communicate, as well as how we express, inform, and entertain ourselves. Equally, governments and institutions are being reshaped, as are systems of education, healthcare, and transportation, among many others. New ways of using technology to change behavior in our systems of production and consumption also offer the potential for supporting the regeneration and preservation of natural environments, rather than creating hidden costs in the form of externalities. Now let's count the number of subtle calls to increase control over your life contained in that single paragraph, okay? We've got the profound shifts across all industries, which will lead to the disruption of incumbents and reshaping of production, consumption, transportation, and delivery systems. Let's not forget the blatant lies they tell, like leading you to believe they want incumbents to be disrupted. They are the incumbents in most cases. They're doing this so they don't get disrupted. They want a front row seat with their hand on the wheel as they reshape production, consumption, transportation, and delivery systems. Worldwide, of course. Then Schwab moves to the societal front, where he breathlessly informs us that a paradigm shift is underway in how we work, communicate, as well as how we express, inform, and entertain ourselves. Again, let's note the subtle persuasion. It's already happening. He wants you to think almost like the guy who pesters a woman for a dinner date. Then, when she finally agrees, says, "Would you like to have sex before or after dinner?" How much does Schwab and his gang intend to control? Just how you work, communicate, express, inform, and entertain yourself. That's about all. The one frontier where you may have some level of control is your thoughts, but they're probably just waiting for Elon Musk to perfect his Neuralink device so they've got a straight shot into your brain. I forgot what year this book is from, but that's funny. Next, he moves to the institutions. Equally, governments and institutions are being reshaped, as are systems of education, healthcare, and transportation, among many others. Let's put that into the plain person translator as we conclude. They just want to control the schools, the medical system, and your freedom of movement. Mint. I don't even like mint. Yeah. So you can't say that Schwab and his gang aren't ambitious, that's for sure. And what do they actually want? Well, hopefully they tell us new ways of using technology to change behavior, and our systems of production and consumption also offer the potential for supporting the regeneration and preservation of natural environments. Regeneration is key there. They're the ones who want to use the technology to reshape us, as well as control the means of production and consumption. In other words, you'll eat our plant-based burgers and lab-grown meat when we tell you. This may sound like a minor point, but Schwab is a really bad writer. However, I think Schwab's writing and persuasion skills lie at the heart of this book. One can make the argument that all writing is about persuasion, but the quality of the writing is determined by the quality of the author's thinking. Brilliant writing is the result of a brilliant mind. The most engaging writing is generally the result of an author being willing to explore provocative ideas in a way the reader may not have considered before picking up this book. Schwab is a ham-handed persuader, always relying on the same three-pronged approach. First, use a lot of flowery gee whiz, isn't progress amazing sections with some interesting facts of which the reader might not be aware. Second, introduce some threat such as instability of the system to make people uneasy. And third, let the reader know that Schwab and his Davos group have the answer. This is generally known in persuasion as the problem reaction solution dynamic. So, all right. The power is in your hands. Chapter 2 is developing the system of control, and I'll be back with that soon. I hope anyone who sees this enjoys it. I am Eagle Jaxson, and I am out of here.